You're listening to the Modern Life Mystic Woman podcast, hosted by Jen Neville and Taya Lee.
Modern Life Mystic Woman started as a conversation about writing, dreaming, dating, magic, God, tarot, astrology, and our mutual passion for consciously creating both spiritually fulfilling and totally luxurious lifestyles.
We're all about living in alignment, being tapped in AF, and going all in on ascension. We're committed to intuition, inspiration, and creation.
We are the bold and the spiritual, and we're moving cosmic mountains together. Hello, welcome back to another episode. We are so excited about this show. We're diving into dating the signs. That's right, we're getting all into dating, sex, all the things that you want to hear, and how we can kind of get to know men through their astrological signs, through the elements. We're getting all into this today. Jen, are you excited?
So excited, spilling all the hot goss on all the different signs.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because we've been talking about this a fair bit, and I'm just excited to go through it kind of like in a linear order for women, to just kind of like see the similarities and commonalities, because I don't know about you, but there is some definitely like similarities in terms.
There's definitely similarities, and I feel like that's kind of what inspired us to come on here and talk about it. It's because, you know, even when you date two people who are, or like two different people, but they're the same sign, it's like you always see kind of those similarities, and it can be quite comical. And you know, there's so much that goes into it, but I feel like we're gonna look kind of base level, and then we're going to talk about our own signs and how that projects into our own dating lives. So yeah, hopefully you guys can relate to some of our stories. If you do, feel free to let us know that we're not alone, that it's not just us, it is these men.
I love it. So okay, do you think we start at the signs themselves, or should we talk about the elements first? What do you think?
I feel like starting at the elements, I mean, because you got earth, air, fire. You know, we could break that down because we kind of haven't talked about that yet, you and I.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, especially, you know, for so many of your listeners who are so into the tarot, you know, maybe just even connecting like those elements as well, I think could be super helpful, because like, you know, what is who is the King of Wands? Like, what is he all about? Which is like the fire signs, and then
Totally.
those things down. I think that's going to be really cool and helpful for people.
Totally. And even with tarot, I mean, you've got your Knight of Wands too. So I feel like he pops up in all the readings. But yeah, I feel like with the elements, so then, you know, elements and then comparing like the elementals, I will say, I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in with air.
Let's do it.
Me being Virgo and me having, I basically have fire and earth in my chart. So I actually do mesh well with water, but my biggest thing is like I don't really get on with the air signs, other than the fact that I normally become very, very good friends with them, because I will say, like, you know, air is a representation of thoughts, communication. I will say people with a lot of air in their chart, or air signs in general, are normally really intellectual and really good communicators. Especially, like, I always find that I'll have like great conversations with Geminis, especially because Mercury rules both Virgo and Gemini. So we kind of have that communication thing going for us. So yeah, I guess I had like one really good friend who was a Gemini, and we would just talk for hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like air signs are always my smart intellectual friends.
Interesting. Which is,
Or like the smart nerdy guys that I like.
yeah. Yeah, and you know, that's what for myself, like that's definitely been most of the men that I am attracted to or drawn to, or like, I love how you mentioned great communication, because that's something that's so important to me. And that just like draws me in for like just a very, yeah, like clear, good quality conversation and communication. So I'm definitely, but because I have a lot of area.
Yeah. You have a lot. So your chart, you're basically, your sun is Capricorn.
Yeah. So we're both
Your
sign sons.
Yeah. So then you're like double Libra, double Aquarius, no?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So your Venus is Aquarius, right? And your rising's Libra,
Yeah.
and your moon is Libra.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm good. I remember all
I
this.
know. I'm like thoroughly impressed right now. That's
And then
amazing.
your Mercury is Aquarius too, right?
My Mercury is Aquarius. Yeah. So I
Okay.
communicate and I love like an Aquarius, I like to say.
Yeah. So both of my parents are air signs. They're Libra and Aquarius. And then yeah, I just came out with all this fire and earth. So it's like I have nothing to put out the fire, just to build it.
Mm.
Which is why I think water is a good, like I do well with water signs, because it's like gives me that aid, because I do have a temper and my parents never were able to kind of help me deal with that with me, because they're just both so kind of logical and yeah, that airy quality. So I
Mhm.
feel like as a fire sign, you're prone to like I think that brings out the fire in my chart, at least brings out that impulsive nature.
Interesting. Okay.
And surprisingly, I haven't dated very many fire signs. I've had like some experiences like or flings with some, and they are very, I mean, they're fire. So that's like that passion and that action oriented. So yeah, that King of Wands, it's like the fire signs I have come encounter with. Um, they're very much like, yeah, they're very action oriented. I feel like the fire signs just take action, impulsive, maybe a little, especially like Aries or something, a little rough around the edges, but very much so I see what I want what I want, and then when I get what I want, I'm gonna maybe move on to something else.
Okay, I have to ask you about this. I don't know if it's because when I think of fire signs, I think very like, yeah, very sexual and passionate. So I don't know if this is in all the tarot decks, but in the Witch's Tarot, the King of Wands is like jerking off.
Oh, really?
Like he's the
Wow.
only king that his hand is fully under like his robe, and you can, if you look closely, it's like that he's touching his own wand.
Well, in even in the regular tarot, the fire signs are always carrying their wands. They're always carrying their wands.
Right.
So that's enough, you know, like you look at the air signs, they're carrying their swords, which is kind of like they lead with their intellect.
Mhm.
Water signs are leading with their emotions. Us earth signs are leading with our kind of like material possessions, or that groundedness, that like we can bring you stability type of energy.
Mhm.
And then the fire signs are carrying their wands, so yeah, they're bringing the passion, or they're bringing something, because I would like to, like, I look at, I guess it's how you define passion and things like that, because like I feel like water signs possess that. But yeah, me being my Venus is Leo, and then my rising is Sag, so I do have like, I wouldn't say, I mean, I would say I'm a very passionate person, but I am very much so impulsive and yeah, thrill of the chase type of person. But then I've got my Virgo, which keeps me, my Virgo and all my Capricorn, that
Yeah.
keeps me very, very grounded.
Yeah.
But that fire energy is is very present within me.
Yeah. So
Yes.
then, okay, so we talked about air, fire. What about water men?
Watermen, I feel like it depends which one you're looking at. I feel like they're obviously they're strong emotions, but that doesn't necessarily mean, because I know like I feel like that's where it's like dependent on which placement they're in.
Okay, like
Um,
which sign?
yeah, because I feel like with earth signs, they're all the same. They're all kind of grounded, rooted, um, very much so stable. Because you've got Capricorns who are like money, money, money. That's how I see Capricorns are like business focused.
Mm-hmm.
Virgos are like all about the home. And Taurus is like, God, we're going to get into Taurus, but
Kind of like the workhorse, like.
yeah, they're, I mean, they're, because see, they kind of teeter on that, like, you know, I was telling you that there's a lot of like signs that are kind of pseudo, like Scorpio's a water sign disguised as a fire sign. I think Virgo's an earth sign that's disguised as a water sign because we are so emotional at our core. And
Mm.
then you have kind of, um, I think Taurus is earth sign that's disguised as a little bit of a fire sign just because they are that bull energy. And when I think of a bull, it's like, you know, you don't, if you poke that's the poke the bear, but like you probably don't want to poke the bull either. Because
Right.
I mean, I feel like I have the most experience with the sign Taurus, and I would say they are very, very like no drama, very grounded, very chill until you like do something to piss them off. And then that temper to me is like, whoa,
Mm.
like you've enraged the bull and you don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Because that it does get like fiery, or they're very possessive, I think,
Mm.
from my experience. But yeah, so I feel like that's the difference there. So I guess we should just get right into it. I think we should start with, I guess, Aries. Aries is the first.
Yeah, let's go in order because I feel like
Yeah.
then we can, go through that process. So, I mean, I've definitely had some experience with Aries. How about you?
I've had like one experience with Aries.
Okay. So,
Yeah. It,
fiery.
it was more like a fling
Okay.
type of situation, but yeah, very he was very much so how you would expect, like very forward and very kind of, I don't even know how else to explain it.
There's something
But
about my last relationship, which was under a year, was with an Aries, and the thing that I find very attractive about Aries men is that they're very they're in that masculine energy of like taking action,
yeah.
and that can be very masculine, but because like they're the very first sign, there's definitely like a boyish young
Yeah.
curiosity, which is like can be cute, but it can also be, I think, maybe a little bit confusing to the senses, or at least it was for me, because it's like,
Yeah. I also realized I was lying. I do have like one really big Aries experience
okay.
from like a little high school boyfriend. But it was, we were like best friends in high school. He was an Aries, but very controlling. And like you said, very in that masculine energy. And I feel like his issue with me was always if I'd get in my masculine energy, that he would just be like not having it, which is, you know, and I'm talking, when I say masculine energy, I'm talking like I was a competitive athlete. I'm, sometimes I am very much so, I do what I want when I want, and you're not going to tell me how to do it. And that would be like really an issue for him. And we'd always have to have these discussions where I was like, you need to find somebody that you can just boss around because that's what you want to do.
That's exactly how I felt too. It was like, yeah, no, they need to be the boss. And that's actually something
Yeah.
every time I would read like compatibility stuff of a Capricorn and an Aries together, it's like, whoa, major like power struggles because we both want to be in control.
Well, and Capricorn is also a masculine sign.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, so it's interesting when these similarities and differences do come up. And this is what I really want like listeners to kind of get out of this. And what I've noticed now, like being in this phase of singlehood and really going back and tracking like all the boyfriends I've had, whatever, all the guys that I've like been attracted to, or just noticing the qualities that I'm attracted to. And like for me, I'm kind of like all about like being the most efficient and effective as possible, and like kind of like noticing the patterns and like tracking the data of like all this spiritual stuff. And so it's like
Yeah.
it feels like, oh, this is actually a very efficient use of my time if I go and I kind of like track all these guys who I've either been with or attracted to, and like really notice like, okay, like where was the sex the best, where was the conversation the best, where was like the emotion availability the best, like where was the friendship the best. And so like I guess just as kind of like a thesis of this show, I kind of want to share with women of like this information can be very effective in terms of like tapping into who your ideal partner is going to be. And just like, does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is so much that goes into it though as well. And then there's like, because there's people who, it's like, if I were to rely on I don't match up with just their signs, because how we're talking about it now, like there's masculine energies on a sign and there's feminine energies. And I feel like, yeah, observing and looking at how all of them relate and then kind of the qualities that you want. I hate to be that person that's like, oh my God, I'm not going to talk to you if you're an Aquarius. Because like that is my
Aquarius is for me because I've magnetized those people.
I did I found out because okay, well, we're gonna get Aquarius will be like close to last because that's gonna be your domain. But I did find out the other day, I was like looking at this guy that I like used to have a crush on because I saw he's like getting married or something. And I was like, what was his sign? And then I found out he was Aquarius. And I'm like, oh my God, he was so much fun.
They are
And
so much fun.
yeah. So it's just the other Aquarians.
Okay.
But there's like so it's interesting because we talked about masculine. There's also like the cardinal, like you could be a cardinal, you could be a cardinal sign, a mutable sign, and or a fixed sign. So where you and that Aries probably meshed well was that you were both cardinal signs, and you're both kind of.
What does even cardinal mean?
Cardinal is like you guys are kind of the initiators. Like you guys basically are like, I feel like because you look at action takers and people who are, work from that inspired action place. So that's why Capricorns are so business oriented. That's why Aries are so kind of driven. And then Cancer is another cardinal sign. So it's kind of like the doers of the zodiac. And then you have mutable, which is more so like we go with the flow. Like as Virgo, I'm mutable and I'm feminine. So I'm kind of just I like allow and I kind of just go with the flow. I think it's Pisces, Virgo, and I want to say Sagittarius.
Yeah,
Am I
that would
right?
make sense because Sagittarius is before Capricorn and then Pisces is before Aries. So
Yeah. And then Gemini also. So then the cardinal signs are Libra. So you have like two cardinal. But then fixed is Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. And then cardinals, Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, Libra. So that kind of plays into it too. Because then like moving into Taurus.
Yeah, let's dive into the Taurus next.
The Taurus, which is like I always joke, I keep manifesting these damn Taurus men who are fixed signs, which I'm mutable, so it kind of works. But since they're fixed, and this is what I've noticed. Like, not only are they the bull and they're a fixed sign, but they are so stubborn. I have yet to meet a Taurus that's not the most stubborn person in the world. If anybody, I mean, somebody's going to be a Taurus person and listen to this. Look, I love you guys, okay? Because I keep going for it. There's a lot of qualities I love about Tauruses, but that's the one that I'm just like, oh my goodness, they've all been the same.
Like the stubborn quality in terms of like a masculine energy, like, yeah, like I feel like sometimes it can be annoying, but then isn't it also like there's something maybe sexy about a man who's like, no, it's my fucking way.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's what I like. Deep down, I like it because I'll be like, So yeah, I had an experience with like one guy, even though it's like every Taurus guy I think I've ever dated, that has basically, it's like if I say something that I'm like, oh, how could you do this? Like, why did you do this? The responses I always get are just like, deal with it. Or no, that's not what I want. And then end of conversation. So I feel like there's really no budge room, but I also feel like I'm a little bit attracted to that. Somebody who can just stand their boundaries. But I think the allure for me, for Taurus men is that they're ruled by Venus. So if you find a Taurus man, ladies, and some of you have probably dated them. So Taurus and Libra are both ruled by Venus, which is obviously the planet of love. So ladies, don't sleep on a Taurus man, even if you find his stubbornness a little bit difficult, because behind that masculine dominant energy is a very sweet and affectionate person who loves cuddles and loves touch, loves like all the pleasures that life has to offer. So I do feel like Taurus men make great lovers, but they're just maybe a little bit difficult. But if you can work around that, they're I think that's why I like them so much.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I haven't had any romantic Taurus experiences, but and I was thinking about this morning actually, and reflecting on like all the last 4 landlords I've had have all been earth signs, and the two, like the couple whose property I live on right now, are both Tauruses. And the Taurus was like maybe like a couple places ago, and there's something about them, like it's a very like, yeah, like grounded but like materially, I don't know, like really cool energy of just like they like nice things, they're willing to work hard for them.
Yeah.
So
But they're a
there's
little bit more chill than a Capricorn.
yeah, exactly.
Because like they like nice things, but they really don't care what other people think about them.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't think Capricorn really does, except for the fact that like I do think Capricorn has that show off factor of like, I want people to see that I have nice things.
Right. Yeah.
And that's me saying that, like having a lot of Capricorn in my chart, obviously, like, you would know. And I do think there's a difference when you're dealing with like men versus women of the signs. So obviously we're talking about dating men, but like I've had friends, like I have girlfriends who are Taurus women.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's so different when you're talking about like that masculine energy coming from, because I mean, one of my best friends, she's a Taurus, but she is like stubborn.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, we got to go now. We got to go here. And she's like, you need to relax.
We'll go and we go.
Yeah. And that's like, I feel like the last few guys I've been like involved with have been, and there's one like the last two have had like triple Taurus in their chart. So I'm just kind of like, oh my goodness. And then I was telling you about one who was kind of a playboy and liked to party.
Yeah.
He was a Taurus. And I had to look up his chart because I was like, there's no way this guy, and I looked it up, his moon is in Leo. So that I think was where that like need for attention came in.
Totally.
But yeah, I'm a fan of the Taurus men. It's just,
well, I've had other women in my life who are obsessed with Taurus men. They're like, I love Taurus men. Like, there's just something so sexy about them. And I mean, from the astrology stuff that I have read, I hear that Taurus men make the best husbands. So there's something there.
I could see that. And I love Taurus men. But I just haven't figured out how to, I don't think you ever conquer them, but I just haven't figured out how to kind of figure them out. I don't know. Like, I get it. They're so direct and straightforward. And they're also, I feel like my little like Virgo the Virgin comes out and they're so like sex driven. So that's like, I would say most of them lead with, and maybe that's just my experience. I might be going for, but they're always like just trying to get it going in the bedroom right away. And I'm like, whoa, take me out to dinner.
Which Tauruses love to eat, right? Isn't that like all the memes we see about Taurus?
Yeah, I'm like, take me out to dinner. They're like, come over.
They're kind of, I guess, more of like a Netflix and chill kind of.
Yeah, they are like the epitome of Netflix and chill. My goodness. I'm like, take me on a nice date.
Right.
I think that's where I like Capricorn men, because they're all show. So it's like, oh, you want to go to a nice dinner? I'll take you to the nicest restaurant in town.
Right.
So yeah. So I think like I maybe I need to start finding some more Capricorn men.
Right.
Instead of these Taurus guys.
You're into the earth signs for sure.
I am. I do like fire. Well, I guess I don't have that much experience with fire signs, but I'd be open to them.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's keep things on track and move on over to Gemini.
So yeah, I only have those two, like my two closest Gemini experiences have just been it was like so much more of a connection on an intellectual level, and also there's one that I feel like they're moody men. Moody men. Yeah, they are moody men. Like 1 minute they're happy, and then like the next minute they're in the worst mood ever.
Which is kind of like the sign of the twins, right? Like it's almost like they do have like these two personalities.
Yeah, and they like will not from my experience, will not hesitate to complain about anything and everything. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because I've only had one Gemini experience. Actually, when I first started dating like 6 months ago, it was the first guy I matched with on Bumble, and we went out a few times, and it was my first Gemini experience. And yeah, a lot of talking, a lot of like chatting, also a lot of kind of complaining, like as you're saying, like a lot of complaining, a lot of like, and I've seen this in Gemini women that I've like associated with. It's almost like they have so many effing ideas and thoughts that there's this very kind of erratic energy about them.
Totally. That's exactly how I would explain it. Erratic.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want this to come off as like sounding bad, because like what I hear and what I see, and I guess my experience of like, you know, hearing things from this guy was like, they have a lot of like ideas, which is like, I think very like stimulating and attractive about them, because it's like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And I kind of am, and I've heard this from other people who have had more intimate relationships with Geminis, is like that's part of the excitement about them, and the thrill is like you're talking about all these amazing things you could do, but there's not always a ton of follow through.
Yeah. Well, and that's like everything is always out of all the air signs, my favorites are actually Gemini. I think those
Okay.
are the most I have like that energy with. But I also feel like, these are our own personal opinions. So
Mm-hmm.
a Gemini would look at some like a Virgo and be like, good God, no. So like if you're a Gemini out there listening, you're probably like, oh my God, I do not like Virgo men, or maybe you do. Who knows? I think Gemini and Virgos can communicate very well. But
Mm.
yeah, the two Gemini experiences I had, one guy was like just like a little overseas flirtation, and he was French. So on top of like being a moody Gemini, he was like a moody Frenchman.
Oh, so he was like ultra emo.
Oh, so emo. And he was like, oh my God, I hate America and all this stuff. Like, but he was really sweet. He was really sweet until he didn't get his way. And then he'd be like moody and complaining, which, like, whatever. So, but he was a lot of fun. I like Geminis.
They're fun. It's a fun energy.
Yeah, but I like sometimes I'm like exhausted after hanging around them.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of energy.
They have a lot of energy. Yeah.
All right. So
Okay,
then
so
what's
Cancer.
Cancer? I just have some close, I've always wanted to date a Cancer. Like I've always liked Cancer men.
Mm-hmm.
Never locked one down, but I like their energy. I think Virgo and Cancer make a nice pair. I've noticed some of the guy friends that I have are like Cancers, even just like close girlfriends I have that are Cancers. They're like those that bottle up their emotions, and then they'll get like, I've noticed a lot of Cancer men have like tempers.
Mm.
That's just been my experience, or like hidden tempers.
Yeah, I guess I could see that as well. My Cancer experience is actually like my first two like high school boyfriends were both Cancers, and those I think have been really my only
Cancer and
experiences.
I feel like Cancer and Capricorn are good flow
Well,
too.
yeah, because they're opposite, right? So I always,
Yeah.
that's what I always read about. Yeah, and the Cancer energy was very like super kind of like they're your best friend, but they're also super romantic and sweet and like
Yeah.
kind of like to surprise you with things. But I think like I don't know if it's like the anger thing that you were talking about, but there was like an undercurrent of like possessiveness or jealousy, like simply like a Scorpio.
Possessiveness. That's what
Yeah.
I'm thinking of. Taurus men are very possessive too, and that's like Cancer men also. That's I think my issue with Cancers or Cancerians. My issue with the experiences that I've had, it's like they're too sweet. They're too sweet to me that
Mm,
I'm like, you're not that nice.
right. Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, they are very possessive, and like I've had some good guy friends that I've liked and then friend zoned hard, and they've all been Cancers. They've all been Cancers. Sorry, Cancer.
Interesting. And I think is there a little bit of like
And they
uh
let themselves get friend zoned.
yeah. Because is there a
Yeah.
little bit more of like an emotional neediness? That sounds so bad, but like I don't know. So I will share a quick story about, so this was like maybe a couple months ago. I matched with this like super hot guy on Bumble. We're talking on the phone and everything. He lived at a distance, of course, because that's just what I'm attracting right now. And he was a Cancer, and so we were like talking about all this stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like it's cool, like whatever. We're not living in the same city." And then it was like, I don't know, a few days later, hadn't really heard from him. And then I get a message like, you know what, I've really been thinking about, like, I think I'm just like a needy person and I can't do something that's long distance. Like, I just really want someone that lives close by to me. And I was like, yeah, like no hard feelings. Like, that's totally cool. And then when I looked into his chart, yeah, he was a double Cancer.
Oh,
And so, Yeah, and then so when I was like, and this is kind of like what I think is really cool about tapping into this information, because with me having so much air and like being really comfortable with a lot of space, I need a lot of like deep intimacy and connection, but like I'm very comfortable with a lot of space. And so
Yeah.
then when I see that that's his chart, I'm like, oh yeah, like there's just no fucking way. Like there,
Yeah,
and so I think that's good information
it
to
is.
know about, right?
Well, especially, thinking now that you're talking about that, I know that the triple Tauruses or one of the triple Tauruses, which is probably one that I connect with on an emotional level more, his Venus is Cancer. So for me, that's like, okay, that makes sense to me because
Mm-hmm.
that's probably, you know, where he's kind of more a little bit emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it does help when you know their placements, because yeah. And I mean, like, I'll see 3 signs that I just know I don't get with, and I'll be like, oh my god, they're a triple Libra. No. They're a triple Aquarius. No,
And
no,
it's
no.
so, yeah, like it's so helpful to understand, because it's like, when you really like somebody, or you really think like, oh, but this could be great, like we have the same whatever dream, or like you're really attracted to them, but then it's like when you know this information, it's kind of like it just makes it so much easier to let
Yeah.
things and people go, because you're like, oh, like that's just a major problem waiting to happen. It doesn't matter how attractive I think you are. It's like
Yeah.
we're just not compatible, and I think there's like, yeah, this compatibility factor that we have to also be cognizant of.
Yeah. Totally. So then, what's next? Leos. Leo.
Leo.
Another fixed sign. I've had a lot of crushes on Leos. I've had like
Okay.
maybe some steamy makeouts with Leos, but I've never dated one. But I do like Leos because my Venus is Leo, so I feel like I have that commonality. And
Yeah.
speaking of love, this isn't necessarily a love language, but I feel like my way of giving love is like giving attention. Like if I like to gas people up, which is like because that's kind of what I want in return. I like,
Mm.
you know, make me feel like the center of the universe.
Right. Oh my God, I love it.
And I'll make you like that. So that's how I like to make people feel like the center of the universe. Um, and I feel like I always have like crazy flirtations with Leos that just never get anywhere because it's just us being like, oh, you're so hot and this and this and
No,
this
you're
and just
so
like,
hot. No, you're so
no,
hot.
you're so hot. Like, oh, this and like it's just this back and forth flirtation, but it just never goes anywhere. Or it'll be like a fun, like drunken make out, or like you're
Mm,
at the bar and you meet somebody, and I feel like those have been my only Leo experiences.
okay. So the only Leo experience I have is again somebody that I matched with on Hinge. I guess this was maybe like 4 or 5 months ago or so now. We went on a few dates, and I don't know if this is a Leo thing, but this is something that I really loved and enjoyed about this guy. Was he Okay, so one of the things that I've been playing around with like on dates is like asking a guy to order for me, which
Yeah.
some girls think like, oh my God, that's so offensive. I'm like, no, like I want to like just take control, let me lean back, like let me just be in my feminine. And
Yeah.
this guy, first time we went out, again, he was like coming from a distance to come take me out, and he literally looked up like even he was like, no, I'm picking the place, I'm picking you up. Like he was very assertive in that masculine
Yeah.
energy, like I'm taking care of everything. He literally looked up like 8 different restaurants in my city, which he had never really been to before, and then like just spent so much time like picking the perfect restaurant and then like ordering for me. And it was just, and then yeah, that happened like a couple times. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's a Leo thing, but I think maybe that's like because they kind of like to show off in that way and kind of like be
Yes.
in control a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, that's funny about I do that on dates too. It's like,
You?
oh, I really kind of sit, and we'll have to do an episode on that because I really just sit in my feminine, like because I like masculine men, and I do have like my masculine side, um, which we all have it, that I want to kind of be the aggressor
Mm,
with certain people, but I really like masculine men. So I think the first place I'll test them is being like, I don't know what to order. Will you order for me? Type of thing, and see kind of how they respond to that. Like I said, the Taurus guys who are super masculine, I feel like every Taurus guy I've done that to has been like, you don't know what you like, what you can't order for yourself.
oh, they don't like it.
They're like, what?
Oh my god.
Because
So
I
then
feel like
what signs were like are the most like receptive of that?
well, that one Taurus guy who had the Leo moon, he was very much so like, because remember, we even talked about that. He would be like, put on this dress and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm not going to tell you
Right.
where we're going. So
Yeah, that's
so maybe that's like that Leo, that like proud lion
mm,
energy.
yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the Taurus men that I've dealt with, like they do have this indecisiveness about them. So then when I'm like, I'm indecisive, then they're kind of
Mm,
like, oh, you can't make a decision on your own. Then
right.
it gets into like this little, like, you need to learn how to do this on your own. I'm like, God, okay. Hey, dad. But yeah, so
Okay.
Leos, yeah. I
Okay.
guess maybe that's a Leo thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
then
so then Virgo.
Virgo. Virgo, I feel like I've had like I like had like dated somebody in college who was a Virgo, and he was I don't know, I'm not a fan of like me being a Virgo. I'm like I can't. They're kind of cold from my experience.
Hmm.
But I know I can come off as kind of cold and detached. I feel like Virgo men kind of come off as like, I don't know. I haven't experienced one well enough. And I don't think I have any male friends that are Virgos.
So I have, well, my dad's a Virgo.
Okay.
So I have one of my, again, previous landlords was a Virgo, earth sign. And then I haven't fully officially dated any Virgos, but I guess it was like maybe last summer there was a guy, like I was living in this apartment and one of the guys that lived in the building was kind of like into me and we like hung out a couple times just as friends. He was a Virgo. And okay, so I guess, again, I don't know if this is a Virgo thing, but kind of, sort of. So like, because Virgos are super like organized and they
Mhm.
have like, they're like into business, but kind of in a different way, I guess I see, than maybe like a Capricorn. But anyway, so this Virgo guy, he was a cop, which felt
Mhm.
very Virgo to me. Just kind of like, I don't know, like you can't see like my hand gestures right now, but just kind of like putting things in place, order,
Order.
yeah,
Yeah.
just order, law and order. Like, and first off, like I just knew like there's no way, like I'm not, I there's no way, like my lifestyle, I'm never going to be with a cop. Like that's just not my
Yeah.
jam. Never going to happen. um but yeah, that's really been my only Virgo experience.
Yeah. I know from my perspective as a Virgo myself, I'm probably hard to crack. And then I'm just super loyal. And I am like, so I would imagine Virgo men are very, very loyal, but like hard to crack because you got to kind of, and I feel like we're such good judges of character
Mm.
that it's like I always be knowing shit before I know it. So I like can already assess with somebody's energy, and it's kind of, yeah, I feel like Virgo people we're very loyal. So I would say men are probably the same.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say is like Virgos are really fucking tidy and neat and clean.
I don't
So,
know about that though, because
no?
I would say I'm like, or I have organized chaos. Like I'm
Okay.
organized. My mess is organized.
Okay, got it.
Like, so it's like when somebody comes and tidies up for me, I'm like, what are you doing? Like I can deal with my mess. I cannot deal with other people's messes. So if
Right.
I see somebody else's mess, I'm like, no. But I'm definitely not that like Virgo type that's like, let me come over and clean your place. Like, no. that is not that is not me. But
Okay.
yeah, okay. Libras.
Libras. Okay, so we've both had recent sort of experiences with Libra men.
Yeah. I have two good, like two of my best guy friends have been Libras. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know if Virgos and Libras are a good match because, but then like Libras have that Venus placement. So maybe I've been sleeping on the Libras. Maybe I've been sleeping on Libras.
Yeah, I don't know. The most recent guy that I have dated was like, yeah, triple Libra, maybe even more. Like, what's four triple, quadruple?
Quadruple, yeah, quadruple Libra.
Yeah, something like that. A shit ton of Libra. And so, and you know what I'm realizing is I think like this is the quality of anyone with a lot of air in their chart, which is myself included. So again, we're all mirrors. So there's a reason I'm probably attracting this. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of like, just a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of conversation, but this kind of like, again, it's a little bit of that. I guess when I say the word erratic, it sounds bad. And I don't feel that way as like when I was saying it about Gemini, but there can be a similar, I don't know, but there's something very, I guess it's more of that like Venus placement with the Libra. The one thing I will say about the Libra, similar to myself, is very like we love like aesthetics and beauty.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
like his apartment was probably like the nicest in terms of like a man's apartment that I had seen that was like organized, like stylish, like all of those kind of qualities. And like
Yeah.
that I really like.
Yeah. I don't know with the Libras. You know what I will say though? I have had, and this is kind of getting away from, I guess, dating men, but like a lot of, when you have a girl crush, a lot of the people that I have girl crushes on are either, kind of like, yeah, they have, because I have another friend who she's Virgo, but Libra rising, Libra moon, like Libra Venus. And she's like that, and it's that beauty and that aesthetic that I love in women. So I
Mm,
feel like I see like a Libra woman and I'll have like a girl crush on her because she just like, that's like, I don't know. I feel like that's, so maybe I have a better chance with a Libra female than I do a Libra male.
well, and yeah, and I think like they say too, like Libras, I think it's like Libras and Geminis like kind of like throw the best parties. Because there's that quality of just like, I guess like a very fine attention to detail.
Yeah. Well, and my two neighbors, well, one moved away. He was a Gemini and the other's a Libra. So the Libra I'm still obviously really close with, but they had kind of a funny dynamic too because, the Libra guy would get frustrated with the Gemini guy because the Gemini guy is like so intense. And I feel like Libras are kind of more like go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like at first I really enjoyed the Gemini, but now I like the Libra guy because he's just so much more relaxed and he's fun to take out to parties, and both great communicators, both amazing social skills. But yeah, the Libra guy is like way more down to earth, way
Yeah,
more like, somebody you want to go
go play
party with.
with.
go places because they're just like, it's like, let's go here now, let's go here now. And I feel like, yeah, that's the energy I get from Libra.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that about the party thing, because this guy as well, this Libra guy, is definitely in like a party sort of entertainment industry.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. All right. Next one, Scorpio.
Oh gosh. Where do we start?
I've had like a significant, I had like my best guy friend growing up that I was like, we were neighbors. I was basically in love with him. I don't think that's a secret to him. I he was like, he was your typical Scorpio. And I feel like ever since then I dated one in college, and then I had kind of a fling with one.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they say that they're like the best sex in the zodiac, or like the most sexual sign in the zodiac. I don't know if I would say that they're the most sexual, but I will say that they're probably the most
Yeah,
intense, and like you're probably gonna have like an intense sexual encounter with them.
definitely.
Each one, I don't know what your experience is, but if we're getting like into the rated R's, I feel like each Scorpio
I feel like you can't talk about Scorpio with going rated R.
without going rated R. I think each Scorpio I have, you know, they're very eye contact. Like, whoa.
Yes. Oh my God, now that you're saying that, I'm like,
Eye
whoa.
contact. Even like, in bed, on a date, like they're just, and I think that's what I love about Scorpios, is that like obsession factor, to where they will literally be obsessed with you
Yes.
for like a little while, then they just ghost you.
Mm. Yes. Oh my God, this is so funny.
But like, oh my God, so there's one Scorpio, I had like a fling with him. He was like a hot bartender. And then like 2 days later, he had like messaged me, and he was like, how much would it cost to live in like your apartment building or something? And I was just like, oh my God. And my roommate at the time was like, that's scary. You should be scared. And I was kind of like, oh my God, he's obsessed with me. And then, so like a year later, I'm obviously over this guy. And I'm like, my apartment complex is very like closed off. Like it's so hard to get in if you're not a resident. So I see him in the parking lot, and I was just like, hey, what's up? He's like, I live here now. I was like,
What?
oh my goodness. Yeah.
Oh my
Um,
God.
we're neighbors now. We're actually neighbors now. And I see him all the time. Oh, he's also French. So
What French Scorpio?
a French Scorpio. But yeah, I mean, he's like, we barely talk, but it was just kind of funny how he did end up moving into my building after all.
Oh my God. But there's like nothing's really going on there.
No, there was really nothing we connected on, other than it was like a
Intense eye
physical thing.
contact.
Yeah, he was intense, but the one I dated in college was very intense. Like we'd go on a date, and he'd just like stare, and I would notice, like I'd be like, God, I've never seen somebody's pupils so
Mm.
like, because what is it when they're like attracted? Are they like big, really big black eyes?
Is that a thing?
And he had like these pretty blue eyes, but they were like they had like stretched huge, and I was like, what is going on with his eyes right now? I was like, but sure, I'll keep talking.
Right.
He's like, I'm so fascinated by you. And it's just like this intensity that I'm just like, okay.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. So like my first love was a Scorpio, and like everything you're saying. Yeah, and it was like so intense and so deep, and I think that actually like probably set me up for kind of just like, I guess like as like a standard of depth that I require in all of my relationships, I guess. But like, yeah, there's just highly sexual, very deep, very intellectual as well, like very into the
Yes, yes.
like the underworld, right? Because like Scorpio is very much that like underworld energy.
Yeah. And like all my dark, like, or all my spiritual stuff that I do, I feel like they've always been kind of intrigued by that. Like, oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
And like if I'm like doing art, yeah, they're kind of like into it all. Yeah, love a Scorpio. Love a Scorpio. I just always get ghosted by them, so
Hmm.
it's fine.
I've noticed so because yeah, like just around like the possessive qualities because they are so
Oh, they are very
intense and
possessive.
emotional, like
Mhm.
and that's one thing that I've noticed. So like other than that, like and then I guess I talked a little bit about cancers before, but like I've realized like I'm not really into water sign men because it's just I think it's they don't seem to really be in control of their emotions, which is a problem for me. Like I
Yeah.
I dated this other Scorpio guy like a couple months ago now. And yeah, we were hanging out for like a couple of weeks. And it was like everything was going like good. And then it was like he would like flip flop between like extreme emotions of like, oh, like I don't think I want this. And then like a couple of days later, like, oh, like can we try it again? Like just all this like, and I'm like, buddy, like make up your goddamn mind. And like, no, like I do not have a tolerance for this like emotional
Yeah.
manipulation. Like I'm just
I
not into
think
it.
I think there's a difference between, and this is like 100% for Scorpio men. There's a difference between a mature Scorpio and like a
Mhm.
non immature Scorpio, and I think that's a thing that like all the signs have. Just like there's like a wounded masculine, divine masculine. I think there's like a mature, immature version of the signs, and like immature Scorpios, I can't do it. But it was fun when I was younger, and I was like, oh my god, he's obsessed with me, and
Right? It's kind of like a turn on.
infatuation, and like there was like, yeah, there's that turn on. And now I kind of see it more as like, if I don't know, I think Virgos and Scorpios make a good match, but because there's that loyalty, like you're gonna get loyalty from a Virgo, and I think Scorpios appreciate that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm a fan of the Scorpios, but I just, they're like rare to come by. I feel like a openly emotionally available Scorpio is very rare. Um, but yeah, Sagittarius. I have some guy friends that were Sagittarians,
Yeah, we
and
talked about this. We've had more guy friends, and actually, when I was thinking about it, I do have one that I dated for a little while. But let's talk about the friend because we've had more Sagittarius guy friends.
yeah, and they're always, this is my thing with Sagittarian men, is I've always noticed like because I have two really close, a best friend of mine in high school, and then like a good guy friend of mine out of college, like, we were very close for 5 years. Always have girlfriends, always in a relationship, but always lining up that platform. Like I feel like
Like wait, like girls like kind of waiting in line for him, you mean?
yeah, or like getting bored. Like they'll be in
Mhm.
relationships, but they'll be bored in their relationship. So it's kind of like the one, it's been the same two people, or same thing for this, but two different people. They're always like, even when they get out of one relationship, it's quick for them to get in another, but then they'll be flirting and stuff. And even me as a friend, and it's like half joking, they'll be like, Jen, like, you sure you don't want to date me? And I'm like, you have a girlfriend. And they'll be like, I'll dump my girlfriend for you. I'm just like, okay, no.
Well, doesn't so Sagittarius like love like they're like the adventurer kind of sign, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. So my rising Sag,
Yeah.
and I feel like I can relate, like that boredom thing. It's like even when I'm in a relationship, I'm like, oh, but there's so many more. But then I have my Virgo that's just like, once I get locked on, I'm locked on. But yeah, I feel like they're the adventurers. So it's like they have to keep on they have to keep on feeding that adventure. So they are best suited, I think, with somebody who's also, go, go, go.
There's also like, now that I'm thinking of like two guys in particular. One was gay, so like, but he's like a friend. We've been friends since we were kids. Sagittarius, and then a guy that I dated for like a couple months. Both were very like business savvy. So I don't know, is
Yeah.
that something you've noticed about Sagittarius?
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think both of them are very hardworking. Both of my guy friends are hardworking. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I don't know about business savvy, but they're hardworking.
Okay.
So I don't know, and I maybe the business savvy comes from like that freedom thing, because like Sagittarians love the freedom factor. So I feel like maybe they'd be the types that would be like entrepreneurs and like,
Yeah, very entrepreneurial.
yeah, establishing a life of freedom. But yeah, Capricorn,
All
Capricorn,
right.
gosh, my one relationship that was like just out of this world. He was a Capricorn, and it broke my heart. But I feel like we kind of gelled. Now, because talking about earth signs with Taurus men, I feel like those guys like are like my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like this guy and we had like that connection, and we are both very business oriented. We're both like, we're extra in the fact that we're like, let's go out to nice dinners, let's do this, let's do that. We had that like grounded connection, and we had a great physical connection. And they're kind of more free flowing than like how a Taurus would be to me. But yeah, I love Capricorns.
Yeah. I mean, my only Capricorn experiences was like a high school relationship when I was like, I guess like 14, 15. Um, and the only thing that I can really say, I mean, God, when you're that young, other than that, I don't have any Capricorn male experiences. There's this, like you kind of talked about like this prestige effect, I guess. Like, well, you
Yeah.
have a Capricorn in your chart, like, and I don't know, this might sound weird, but like we were kind of like the two like popular guy and girl, you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
kind of like there was this influence, I guess I want to say, even at that young of an age. Like I think when we're talking about Capricorn, there is this not only like a desire for influence, but it's almost like people just naturally look up to Capricorns as that sort of like boss vibe.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, yeah, this guy carried kind of a great presence of but also I feel like I have another really good guy friend who's a Capricorn. Actually, I've had experiences with a few Capricorns. The one Capricorn wasn't so much like this, but the one that I like really liked, he was very swayed by other people. So he was almost, and I don't know if that's a Capricorn thing, because I have another guy friend who's like that too. It's like he kind of molds himself to his relationships, and he kind of uh you know his friendships, like he will become like that copy of. And while this guy wasn't so much like he'd become a copy of his friends, I know he'd find his qualities in me that he liked, and then he'd be like, and then I'd see him with other relationships, and he kind of did the same thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. But it was in like a way that of course I loved it, because he's like, I love this about you, I love this quality about you.
Yeah.
But then it's like becomes like a kind of competitive thing, to where I'm like, oh, okay, like you're gonna do it better than me now. And I
Right?
guess that's what we were talking about, is like I do that to guys sometimes. I'll like a quality about them,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of want that quality for myself. And I feel like that's how this guy was. So I don't know if that was the Capricorn in him, or it was just him being like,
Yeah. I'm thinking now, actually, I did go on a couple dates with this guy a few months ago. He was an Aries sun, but literally like everything else in his chart was a Capricorn, and just even like his energy was like so grounded, like so and very work oriented. And there was something, and maybe as a Capricorn, like there's something very attractive about that, but then there's also something about that like, because I mean, you were saying too, like you're not really attracted to like Virgo men. Like I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
really attracted to Capricorn men. Like I don't, there's something, again, like it feels nice because there's a similarity in a way, but
Yeah. But
I
at the
don't
same
know.
time, it's like too similar.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Aquarius.
Oh, Aquarius. I love my Aquariuses. I'm like a magnet for them. I swear to God, like not just even men, but like a high percentage of my clients have been Aquariuses, like my best friend's an Aquarius. Like I don't know. I just love them. I really do. I think there's like such a sense of humor. I think I probably just like, I don't laugh with anybody like I do with Aquariuses.
Interesting. Yeah, see,
You're not a fan.
I'm not a fan. My dad is one, and there was that one guy, he was Australian though. This Australian guy who was there's so many abroad. I love like foreigners. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I feel like the Australian one was so much fun. The other one was, this is gonna be the third time I say this. The other Aquarius, I kind of had like, it just never got, like the Aquarians that I've dealt with never gets off the ground because it's like there's just not nowhere for it to get off the ground. But the other guy was French. I have so many French
Oh,
guys.
yeah, no doubt.
So many French guys. So this guy was French. He was an Aquarius. And I think he literally had the same birthday as my dad. But I mean, he was just, I get that uppity vibe. I got an uppity vibe from
Mm.
him. So it was kind of more so like, it's hard for me to find connection with air signs in general, I think. And then especially like Aquarians, I don't know, there's something about them that like it's hard to have conversations for me with them.
Interesting. Which I feel like that's who I have the easiest, yeah, conversations with, which is probably like the Mercury placement helps that for me.
Yeah.
What did you say? What's your Mercury in again?
My Mercury is in Virgo.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I like intellectual stimulation a lot. Like I'm really big on communication and conversation, but with like both of the Aquarians that I've dealt with, it's been like we'll sit in a room and just be like twiddling our thumbs, like, and I'll start a conversation and it'll be kind of one of those like, how idiotic, like that you would bring that up to me. He'd like bored. He gets bored. Like the one guy would get bored. Like he's like, American girls bore me. And then it'd be like, you know, it's just this like energy
Interesting.
of always being bored is what I get from them. But
They
like
need a lot of stimulation, like a
there
lot
was,
of intellectual
yeah,
stimulation.
there was one guy who I did really like, but again, I think like I'm very shy and they're kind of the French guy would call me and we'd FaceTime and stuff and we'd like talk just fine. This one guy, I really did like him and he was like kind of quiet, but I remember like sometimes he would just say a one-liner that was the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's how my dad is. Like my dad is extremely quiet.
Okay.
But when he is like talking, he's like very funny. So I will give them that. But he's like a sarcastic funny.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I love about Aquarius as an Aquarius men. Well, Aquarius women too actually have that like sarcastic energy.
Yeah.
But there's something that it's like the Aquarius men who I've known who have like a great sense of humor, like they're willing to kind of say those more like politically incorrect kind of things, which I find very attractive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they have a little bit more of like kind of saying the things that like are a little bit like on the edge, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe because their humor's so rooted in sarcasm that my like sensitive Virgo self is always kind of like, I take it personally, or then I start
Mm.
overthinking. And yeah, so that's my take on Aquarians. But see, it's like everybody has a different experience. All
Yeah.
right, so last but not least, Pisces men.
Pisces.
I
So I've only had one Pisces experience that was a few months ago. It's just, well, we talked a couple times on the phone and then we like hung out one day for like the whole day. I think again, the water energy, there's something very there's an emotional, definitely emotional availability and like depth there for sure, and this sort of like romantic watery energy, which again, I guess I've said I'm not super into the water vibes, but I will tell you, this date that I had with this guy, he like, we were hanging out at my place and listening to music, and he like danced with me. He was like, can I teach you how to dance, or like can we dance? And I was like, okay. And I've never had this experience with a man before, and because he like has danced for years, and let me tell you, like it was fucking sexy. Just this very sensual, like being led by that, and like being in that feminine receptive energy, and having this man kind of lead, which is kind of the opposite of what I would normally think Pisces, because Pisces just feels more like watery, a little bit more passive. But
Yeah, and Pisces is also a feminine sign, so they're very much so. But that would mesh well with your Capricorn. You have a lot of masculine um in your sign, because you're Capricorn, Aquarius, so that fixed, and they're mutable as well.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, my experience with Pisces, gosh, I like Pisces. I like the idea of the Pisces, but I just don't think, I mean, they're my opposite, right? So it's like,
Right.
but we're both feminine and we're both mutable. So it was kind of like a lot of, I do like that they're so nurturing, but it
Mm.
was a lot of kind of like, okay, I like being told what to do, but no, I like being told what to do.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
so it's kind of like, oh yeah, we're not meshing well here. But yeah, the one Pisces, actually, I have a guy friend who's a Pisces, and then the guy that I was had my experience with, they're into puns. I don't know if that's a Pisces thing, but very punny people.
Okay.
Very punny people. I don't know if that's like a Pisces thing, but the two Pisces I know just remind me so much of one another. And
Interesting.
like I think the guy I had my experience with, yeah, it was like a long distance thing. And I mean, beautiful man, beautiful man. But also I think they're hard to pin down. They're like they're fish. Like it's like you can hold it in your hand, but he could like slip
Mm-hmm.
right out. So yeah, my experiences with Pisceans are always very fleeting.
Interesting. One thing I've noticed when I've been like kind of tracking the charts of the peoples, um, I've been attracting, and I love this quality, Pisces in Mercury.
Pisces
And
and Mercury, interesting.
so their Mercury is in Pisces, or however you say it. And there's something that's like, when you have that placement, like it's, you're so tapped in and psychic and able to there's this like ability to like foresee things in the future and like be so tapped in.
Yeah.
And I mean, being who I am, like I love that quality. I find it super attractive, and it just like also then feels like you're with this like super psychic man that's like
Yeah. Well, see,
really
that's what I like about Pisces men, but also I just feel like we fumble in where, I feel like my one experience, like we were kind of talking about, how to optimize the situation. And I remember he was like, I take orders really well. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't give them.
Right. Like, yeah, that is not going to get me excited in my
I was like, oh
house.
yeah, no, that's not gonna work for me. I don't give orders.
Which is interesting. I wanted to mention that when we're talking about Aquarius, because you mentioned that they're a fixed sign, which that whole thing is still pretty new to me, but I'm curious about like, so for maybe like women who are listening to this, or women like us who are like, dating, whatever, looking, like we do find that quality really attractive of kind of like being told what to do. And is that
Some women.
yeah, definitely not. But then I think even the women who don't like it, like secretly do want it.
I think so too. I have a girlfriend who's a Leo, and Leos are fixed signs, and as well as being masculine. But I know that she's always saying, she's like, I want a guy who tells me what to do. And that's where I'm like, well, then you gotta stop telling them what to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, so I feel like there's girls who think that they want it, and it's like, I think I want a man who's not going to just tell me what to do, and then I find that man and I'm just like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. Like, I need somebody to kind of take on that role of being the man.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But I think this has been a super long episode, but we had to get through all the signs. So you guys will have to let us know if you related to any of these, if you have had similar experiences. Let us know that it's not just us. But I think we're going to wrap it up here for this episode of Dating the Signs. So we look forward to hearing you guys, and we cannot wait to catch you guys back for the next episode. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow us over on Instagram at Modern Life Mystic Woman, where we're sharing inspirational writing and magical lifestyle tips on the daily.
And if you loved this show, let us know. Subscribe, comment, shoot us a DM, whatever your style, and make sure to share it with all your spiritual besties.
See you next time.